Once I left the U.S., I was just like never coming back.
When you were building this, it's sounding like you started as like a solo founder. Were you worried about that, or is that what you were preferring to be?
At that time, the adoption was slow. No one really understood. Post-COVID, online learning is now multi-billion-dollar industry.
2 to 3 years, kids are not learning at an average pace that they should be. And so like, what does the effect of that have to do?
It's definitely booming, and I think it's going to continue to rise, especially now with all this AI stuff.
How do you think AI is going to like change like education? Like if you're looking out for the next 5-10 years, like how rapidly or what's like the environment going to look like for learning?
It's 50-50, right? It's a double-edged sword.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Caravan podcast. Abubakar from Qariyb. How you doing today?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I'm doing amazing. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, I know it's a Ramadan currently, so we'll try to keep it minimal in how lengthy these answers can be, just to maintain our hydration to the best of our abilities.
No problem.
But we appreciate you making the time and to chat with us and talk about more of your journey of building this company. And what you're working on. So with that, my first question is, how'd you end up in Dallas? You know, I think a lot of people migrate here, but it's always interesting what pulls people into the city.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been here now for about 8 years. My wife's from here, so she was one of the reasons that brought me here. But before that, I was living in the Middle East, in Dubai, doing some consulting work. My background is in learning, change management. So after we got married, we started to, talk about family. Dallas is one of the places that was on top of the list. So essentially, I made a few visits and really liked it. I've heard great things about it before I came, and we ended up just settling down here.
Did you grow up in the Middle East or did you grow up in the U.S.?
Split,
okay.
Actually. So I was born in the Middle East. I was born in Saudi Arabia until I was about 8, and then moved to the U.S. then in Philly. So I grew up in Philly.
Oh, wow.
So after college, I went back to the Middle East and stayed there, worked, and then got married, and then came back here. So like half of my life has kind of been split here and there. So I don't even know where to call home sometimes, but and my parents are originally from West Africa, Liberia, and I haven't been there yet either to say, okay, have some kind of connection there. So it's really just here in Middle East that, I have experiences.
Okay, so controversial question. Philly cheesesteaks, overrated or underrated?
100% overrated.
Oh, wow.
That's surprising coming from someone from Philly.
No, I'm just kidding. No, it's underrated.
It's
here.
okay. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I was about to say.
What's your go-to spot?
Here?
Yeah.
I haven't found a spot here really. Actually, that's not true. I just found a spot not too far from here in Lake Dallas called Benny's. I think they're an Italian guy, I'm not sure, but they're the closest I've had to a Philly cheesesteak. Yeah.
Okay, we got to run that
by
sometime.
Other than that, I have not come across a place that sells really good cheesesteaks. If you do, let me know.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That might be a record on how fast 3 Muslims fasting got into the topic of food.
Right. You can tell we're hungry, right?
It's only 8 a.m.
Right.
We just started the journey.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It seems like you're quite the transplant, kind of finding your way, making it work. Did you ever spend much time in Liberia?
No. So I have not been to Liberia yet. I plan to visit soon, inshallah, but I have not made my way there. I've made my way around Liberia, but
you're doing tawaf around Liberia.
Yeah, every time I plan, something happens. So I'm just waiting for the next opportunity to finally visit, my mother's land and my father's land, and just see where we come from.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
It's definitely important, I think, to see where your homeland or your motherland is from, right? So, and what all that embodies. I know the first time when I went back to Bangladesh as an adult, rather, it was definitely like, oh, this is the origin story in a way, right?
Exactly.
So you mentioned you were kind of doing consulting stuff in West Asia or Middle East. How did you transition coming here to the U.S.? What was that like? Did you have a job lined up? Was it I mean, that's a lot of uncertainty, especially getting after being married.
Yeah, so interesting. How I transitioned from consulting here, once we, started a family, this was early, or sometime late 2018, I was traveling back and forth. Honestly, my plans were never to stay in Dallas. Or like once I left the U.S., I was just like, I'm never coming back. I just want to live, travel, and just be abroad. But like, when you start to have a family, it puts a lot of things into perspective. So I would travel back and forth. I had other businesses that I've started and failed, side businesses. So coming back and forth, then I think it was COVID that happened that one year, and then everything shut down. So that's how essentially I ended up staying in Dallas. It was never a long-term thing to stay in Dallas. But through that, I figured out, okay, if I'm going to be here, I might as well be here. What is it that I can do? And that's essentially how the idea of Qariyb started, right? I was looking for networks. I was looking for things to do, and just couldn't find a central source of where the community was or where they hung out. And as I talked to more people, they had the same kind of problem. And the irony behind all of this is that, I come from a background of community organizing. It's been something central in my whole life because my dad is an imam. He's been a community leader for over 40 years, and not many kind of people know that. So it was the first time I was in a community where I didn't know how to kind of navigate. So I said, okay, let me put something together and see if it resonates. And that's kind of how the story started. And so there was no kind of job lined up. It was just hustle and figuring it out and just trying to, make ends meet.
So I think it's really interesting because you do come from, as you mentioned, your father is an imam, so you grew in this area of meeting people probably all of the time, right? Socializing with folks of different economic levels, backgrounds. I mean, you're kind of at the center of it. Yeah. When you had this idea and essentially like building this network, right, and like in this infrastructure now, did you talk about this with your dad in terms of like, oh wow, this is something that's missing, or what was his experience on hearing your idea?
Yeah, he was very supportive of the idea. He liked the idea, but he's very old school, like not that tech savvy. So for them, it was just, okay, picking up a phone or sending text messages. It was just like, to bring tech to this new behavior, he couldn't see it, right? Or he saw it, but it was just like, it's too much. So, and I just think for him and his generation, just doing things how they've been doing it worked for them. But knowing what I know and knowing, just coming from a background in tech, I just thought, hey, there has to be a better way. And that's how I'm always thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and this is also kind of a unique, I would say, proposition or situation that Dallas is in particularly, right? Which is where if you go to like most masajids, at least in the States, and I'm sure in other areas around the world, it's like it's really one big mosque, right? Or like one locality, and everything's kind of centralized through there. But you're starting to see like some of these like major metropolitan areas, they just have, alhamdulillah, so many things going on all the time. So it's a little fragmented. It's very fragmented. And so like even knowing what's available to you has seemingly been more of a challenge. And I hear this all the time from people that have moved here over the last 5 years. They're like, I wish I knew all the activities that were kind of happening here. So it sounds like that was kind of the same experience you were kind of feeling. Yep. But I kind of want to back up a little bit because you kind of, you were surrounded by like new people all the time, a community, your dad's an imam. And then like, how did that translate into like, hey, I'm going to solve, this is the problem that's worth solving for, and I'm going to do it by building a software tech product?
Yes, I think because I'm someone generally, I enjoy connecting people. I like pointing people in the right direction. It's something I just kind of grew up doing, just again, by being in that kind of environment. And it was a personal frustration as well, because I found myself in a situation not being able to do what I'm normally able to do. So it became easy to do as well. It's something I knew I could do. I could figure it out, even though I didn't have the right resources, but I knew I could put something together that I could benefit from, and in turn others could essentially benefit from as well. And it's just been a learning experience ever since.
When you were building this, it's sounded like you started as like a solo founder.
Yep.
Were you worried about that, or is that what you were preferring to be?
Was not worried about that per se, and I think I'll always welcome the idea of having the right co-founder, the right fit, but it's just at that time, it was early, and I just wanted to get something out there. I didn't want that to be something that kind of delayed why I put out a product. Even though it was non-technical, I didn't want that to be a reason why this problem was not being solved. So initially I was, using a lot of, no code, low code tools, just hacking solutions myself. Later, just, outsourcing the development. And finally, once kind of the co-founder came on board, that's when everything kind of took a turn for the better. And just, we started to really get some solid foundation today. And now we have some good traction, alhamdulillah.
Is this your first time with this business, like building for Muslims, or did you do anything beforehand?
Yeah, this is the first time I built something for Muslims. I had another startup before, because I come from an EdTech background, so my first startup was in education, online education, basically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was like 10 years ago, way before online learning became popular. So
it's like you and Khan Academy are like the
yeah,
only ones that
exactly.
really
So we're trying to do something like that where we, because I'm an instructional designer by profession.
Okay.
So basically developing instruction online learning, anything related to education, learning management, etc. And interesting enough, that started, I was living in Qatar at the time, and we were fortunate to get approvals by the Ministry of Education. But at that time, the adoption was slow. No one really understood online learning, and they didn't see the value at that time. But we did, because we were in the space and we understood technology. We understood what it meant to be digital. And after a couple of years, we decided to kind of shut it down because we weren't getting the traction that we would have liked. And fast forward, post-COVID, online learning is now multi-billion-dollar industry. So we were just a little early, but the lessons we learned still stayed with us, and I've used some of those to help me where I am today.
Yeah, and what year was this when you were working with the ministry?
This was around 2014, 2015.
Okay, 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely been a massive growth and proliferation of online learning. I feel like that's the predominant way that everyone's learning right now. At least as I think about education for my own children, I'm like predominantly, yeah. So Allah khair. But
especially during COVID, it even more skyrocketed, right?
Yeah.
With online learning.
Yeah, I mean, there was kind of a mixed effect during COVID because you saw a lot of educational learning loss because of just people didn't know how to adapt to COVID. Also, parents still have to work, and the way that the U.S. is structured is it's very basically school is I don't know if this is offensive, but school is basically babysitting, right?
Yeah.
So it's it's okay, well, what are we gonna do now that our kids at home? So it's it was just a bunch of. So then there's this massive problem that a lot of people are talking about in the United States in the learning. From a learning standpoint today, which is you had basically a 2 to 3 year time period when teachers were very challenged because they didn't have the tools to be able to manage.
Right.
And then there was also an exodus because the conditions weren't great. They had to just have other financial opportunities. And then you basically have the net result being that 2 to 3 years, kids are not learning at an average pace that they should be. And so what does the effect of that have to do? TBD. but yeah, so a lot of the alternatives have been we're starting to see these pop more and more acceleration of okay, I'm going to train my kid and do this and do that. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely booming, and I think it's going to continue to rise, especially now with all this AI stuff that's out there. there's a huge gap that I see in the market of what do people actually need to learn, like how to separate noise from actually what matters, what's the order to learn things. That's the gap I see now when it just comes to learning in general, because there's a lot of information out there. But again, let's see how that evolves.
Yeah, I mean, so I know this is a little bit of a segue, but like, how do you think AI is going to like change like education, like from your perspective? Because you have a pretty deep, sounds like a pretty deep background in education. Like, what's your thought on that? Like, if you're looking out for the next 5-10 years, like how rapidly, or what's like the environment going to look like for learning?
I think it's definitely going to accelerate learning in terms of information you can have access to, the amount of information you can consume, and we see that every day with these, chat GPTs or Claudes that we're using. But I think the problem I see happening is true understanding of concepts and ideas now that they can just be, spat out. So I think it's 50-50, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? It could do really well, but at the same time, if people are just learning things without truly understanding it, then what are you actually learning?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the calculator question, right? Which is like, hey, like if I have a calculator, will I not know how to do math anymore? It's like, well, it's a genuine like philosophical type question, learning community, right? But I think in general, right, like you can't replace like core values. You can't replace like critical thinking, and those like, that's why they say like the first like early years of development, it's all the same, right?
Exactly.
But I want to go back to Qariyb a little bit, right?
Okay.
So like you shared that like you're coming here, you figure out that there's this need or there's kind of a perspective of like, hey, I would love to see where events are. You're trying to hustle it through, grind it, bootstrap it. What were some of like the pitfalls or like the challenges that you faced that if you could go back in time, that you would like advise yourself?
That's a really good question. It's been such a journey. Trying to pinpoint what's one thing I would give myself advice to. It would just be to just enjoy the ride, because at that time you kind of want to feel like you have it all figured out from day one, and that's not
you never
realistic.
do as a startup.
You never do. So I think despite everything that we went through, the false starts, the challenges, things tend to turn out how they should, right? Whether it's finding the right folks to work with or just finding the right team members, it just falls in place. Even though it was a challenge early on, and just getting people to really understand what it is that you're trying to build, especially in a niche ecosystem that we have. I think that's been the biggest challenge, especially for my case early on, right?
And these are like developers that you're mainly finding early on, or like what's the type of role that you're looking for?
So early on, it was just purely me, and I might have freelanced some work like design and development, but it was just literally
build me this prototype.
So I would just say like now today, like there are a lot of products coming out into the Muslim space, so there's not much education that needs to happen on why we need to build this. But I think when I started early in 2021, no one was really building kind of products that differentiated from your traditional like Quran or Arabic Islamic app. So just knowing that things will work out in the end is something I would kind of just advise myself, that just enjoy the ride and, having that kind of core belief from day one.
That's great advice. I mean, it's like at least experiences that I've had, it's like sometimes they say like if you know how hard things are going to be, and you probably would have never started.
Exactly.
And so sometimes it's just like you just have to breathe and just like, you
That's-
did your best.
It's a blessing to not know.
It is.
No, sometimes it is. Like,
Yeah.
I think it genuinely is because, like, it's a grind.
Yeah.
It's just a grind.
Do you building now for like Muslim spaces? I think everyone has very unique experiences. What's been like your most controversial like findings now that you've been working more heavily in these like Muslim ecosystems?
I think the most controversial finding, and I think, there's this sentiment out there that, you shouldn't specifically build for this specific group, and it should be for everyone if it benefits everyone. And I disagree with that in the sense that, it's case by case, right? Where there's some things that it's going to take a Muslim founder, entrepreneur, or anyone to solve that problem. Otherwise, if it could be solved by someone else, they would, right? We have a massive opportunity in this Muslim economy, Islamic economy, however you want to label it. There's a tremendous amount of value that's there waiting to be unlocked, in my opinion. And I think what we as Muslim founders need to do is basically bring, innovation in how we kind of solve these problems, right? And just not just building things for the sake of building things, but just how can we truly solve this in a kind of innovative way? And that's kind of just been our journey, our story, right? Where we started off as a discovery, a place to find events. Then it became a marketplace, right? We've iterated several times, right? And now we're like, okay, what is the problem that we're actually trying to solve? Who are we solving it for? Because we can't be everything for kind of everyone. So it's this type of thinking where once you start to build, you start to kind of discover this. But I think that's really usually the challenge with building in this space, and trying to educate people around, hey, Muslims need products that's built for them.
So do you feel like when it comes to like, I do agree with that. And it is case by case situation, because when you have a vacancy for such a large demographic that is like 1.5 plus billion people, 2 billion people now almost, right? Somebody else might do it, and that somebody else might not be a Muslim, right? And so when it comes to making that adjustment, I think is important to recognize. But one of the things that I think when you're going in that situation of building for Muslims, in this specific category or tool that you're building, have you found other people building the same tool, but for, let's say, other demographics? Like, is there a Qariyb for Christians or a Qariyb for, Hindus, etc.? Like, have you seen other things like this?
100%. It's a well-developed space, actually, and they're well-funded. There are tech tools out there. I do a lot of research on this space. So there are event tools for like churches, for example. That's what I've come across, really. And they're well-funded. So I haven't seen any for any other demographics other than kind of Christians.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are they doing in terms of like success? Have you had a chance to speak with their founders?
I haven't had a chance to speak with founders, but seeing what's out there, what's on paper, the users that they have, the amount of funding that they're able to attract.
A lot of funding.
There was an app that was built for like a mega church. I think they raised like 40 million Series A or something like that.
Wow.
And that's
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see there is a need for this, right? There is a huge need for this. But again, how do we try to replicate something similar for what we're trying to build, right? We're seeing we have this problem. There's definitely a need there. And now how to kind of unlock that value so that others can see.
Yeah, I kind of see both perspectives, right? Like I think I understand where a lot of people that say, hey, like we need to focus on like infrastructure layer products, like AI tooling and like as a community, like financial products and things like that that actually like will move the needle at a different level, right? Like your Replets or like your Stripe alternative type of situation, which is like, hey, like if you could just wave a magic wand and say, hey, focus on these 4 things, those would be like the types of things. So I understand that perspective, and because that's like more, how do we get more leverage and influence? At the same time, I also think that you can't leave like underserved areas, and the proof point of that is that there's probably like 15 or 16 different applications that are trying to solve this particular problem.
Yep.
And sometimes they say that, hey, if there's that many people trying to solve the problem, it means that the problem's pretty prevalent. Now at the same time, like the question that I always have in a space like this, where you have a lot of the same types of apps, is how do you envision yourself to differentiate? Do you see yourself working in collaboration with these other like similar platforms? What's like the long-term vision that's associated with like Qariyb that makes it differentiated?
That's a really good question. I think, like you're saying now, there's a lot of products now in this space trying to tackle the problem from different angles. And where we are today, we've kind of evolved into much of where we're actually pivoting our product now from a more marketplace model to an operating system model, where now organizers could essentially take our tech and customize it under their own brand, under their own experience, and we become that kind of invisible engine. So whether you're a nonprofit, a school, a charity, NGO, you can have a full event stack under your own brand without sending your data or your customers to a third-party marketplace. So this is what insights we've seen now talking to customers that are using our product, and also the insights that we have just based off of research of where we want to position our product from a traditional marketplace to more of a operating marketplace, right? So that's one way we see differentiation. Like we're solving for the organizer first, right? So that's where the production happens, right? When it comes from events, it trickles down to the kind of attendee, compared to some of the other tools out there that focus more bottoms up, right? Or so we're focusing really on that one particular audience, and we're going to try to do that really well before trying to expand into kind of just different areas. And I think as we grow, and because we're still figuring it out, right? So I think it's very early for us to see where integrations might be or collaborations might be when we're still trying to kind of find that fit for our ideal customer profile.
So is the idea for Qariyb that, so this event OS model, basically, is kind of what you're coining the term as, is the idea that you go to like different Muslim organizations and say, hey, like I can handle everything from ticketing to, the marketing aspects of the event because I have my own set of users, I assume, on your platform. And then like, hey, like here's the keys, here's a subscription fee. Is that kind of the way that
Precisely.
Okay.
More or less, right? So like I said, you understood it perfectly, right? So they want an event experience under their own brand, right?
Yeah.
So without having to build one, without having to hire someone to maintain it. So now we just literally give them the keys, they turn it on, and now they have a fully customized event stack under their own brand.
And what's the selling point for the organizations to like go to something like this versus like a Partiful or Eventbrite or something like that?
So control over their brand experience.
Oh, so it's like white labeling the product
exactly.
itself. Okay, got it. So it's like if someone's holding a big conference or something along those lines, they want to have like the whole stack behind it.
Essentially. So it could be a small organization or a big. So we're not trying to get everybody, right? We're trying those organizations that see the value in what we're trying to position ourselves now, and those that run frequent events, those that care about brand, data, experience, those that want that, those are our early adopters. They could be some massages, they could be charities, NGOs, but we've identified a subset of group of people that we want to pilot this with, and we're going to see where it kind of goes from there.
And then do you have like the users on the platform today, or is it that like the organization also supplements and brings the users, or both? I guess it kind of depends.
Yes, so it's a bit of both. So since we're working directly with organizers, they sign up for the product, they add their events, they sell their tickets, and that goes directly to whatever audiences they've built over time. So they have those direct relationships with their community. We just make sure,
the tech is enabled.
The tech is enabled.
Yeah. I think there's also like so many other benefits, like Partiful, right? Like I used to use it, but the founders of it were ex-Palantir, right? So don't know their intentions, but it's also not the best resume to look at. Mm-hmm. But like having something that is like Muslim owned does give a little bit more assurance, because this is important information, like where these 100%. People are going, what events are they attending, 100%. Frequency, who are they like cross-pollinating, interacting with, right? Exactly. And so does the structure for this, like if an organization or entity that wants to like use this, are these like monthly subscriptions to use Qariyb, and like what does that look like?
So there'll definitely be a sort of tiered subscription or licensing model. We're still literally figuring that part out now on how we want to price it and position it from that perspective, but something along those lines. And to add to your point, that's a very important point where you're talking about data and who has that data and that information. So part of this OS model, it allow decentralization of all of that, because we won't touch your data, we won't see your data, we won't own your data. That completely lives.
Oh, so you don't even store the data yourself? No, you just give it completely. Interesting.
Completely. That's another added value to that benefit. Whereas marketplace model, whether you're a party pool, Eventbrite, any third party tool where you're sending a user.
But isn't there I want to challenge this a little bit, because isn't there a value for you to be able to have access to some of that information, and then to be able to analyze it and also become like a thought leader in the Muslim event?
Like basically anonymized data that we'll have. We won't have actual access to their data, but we'll still be able to look at what's happening and like you said, talk about it and seeing what trends are happening in our community, maybe by category. Maybe we can see X amount of events happening by category, or the type of organizations that are using our product versus mosque and NGOs. So there will be some sort of data that we can talk about, but not like proprietary data that you have with.
So it's not like Hamza went to this event, but it's more so like maybe like an ID.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a geek. I think that type of analysis is cool.
Well, I mean,
it is cool.
But I'm a data nerd. So
but I don't think it's necessarily.
This.
But I don't think it's necessarily so much like there's a lack of value. Is that there's also a value for the end user to know that I'm not being tracked, right?
Oh, okay, I see.
So I think it's like you have to weigh it.
But don't you think that like Partiful kind of proved the opposite though, right? Because
I stopped using Partiful.
Okay, but you did, but like most people when they use Partiful, it's like, I like to see that my friend is going to this. Yeah. They're going to this. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
like that's an event. Like that's a big component. So it's like. It's kind of like what Venmo did to like financial transactions a little bit, right?
Yeah, I always go to my friend's Venmo and see what they're buying. Like, hey, why are you buying pizza
I don't
for
do
Steve,
that.
not me?
No, but that does add like, and it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but it adds like a different component. It makes it more like a social
experience.
Social experience is a better way to say it. Yeah. So it's like at the end of the day, it's just like moving money around. And it's just like a P2P like thing, but it's like, but it's still, it's like, like they went for sushi or whatever. I don't know. Like I don't.
So
really
you do it.
I personally think like my extent.
Lurk at all our transactions.
Yeah, dude.
Why are they paying me back?
I created this AI bot. I'm like analyzing everywhere Naveed goes. No. My extent is just like owing people back for hookah or pizza. It's like 90% of my transactions on Venmo.
But I think it's important to make a distinction, though, between like the social experience, which is valuable for the attendees, and also the organizer who kind of decides what data they want to share. So if you're like a K-12 school and you want to do events, you don't want that data about your students' on a public
Yeah.
database. So these are the type of organizations we're looking to kind of go after that care about that.
Like your Islamic charter schools.
Islamic
and stuff.
charter schools, your
Interesting.
universities. So those are the type of people that we're
I mean, I
interested
think it's really important just because we're not like, it's not like we're a demographic that isn't tracked.
in. Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think that's why it's like becoming more and more prevalent. Like, I mean, even now the new Homeland Security, I think Senator Milton from Oklahoma.
Literally this morning.
Yeah, and like he's notoriously Islamophobic,
Wow.
right? And so it's again, it's not foreign to America's history to round up people by certain demographics, right? And so when I look at certain tools that have a very, not only a track record history, but a building presently history of tracking people to the dot. Yeah, I'm concerned as an attendee. Like, there's an event that I wanted to go to, but it's on Partiful, and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't RSVP. Sorry,
Yeah.
I won't be there.
Yep.
But I think it is something that to be mindful of. So I think it is like good to have. And I think one thing you were talking about earlier was like we should be building these things like AI and Rebrand, et cetera. Like all those things are very important. But I think there's so many of us, right, that we can spin out, build different things, focus where your skill set is able to shine the brightest at, right?
But I think the argument isn't that there's a lot. I think it's that we need to be focused at an infrastructure layer.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I
know
yeah.
at Ummah, right? Because like
Right.
I'm involved with Ummah a little bit, right? So it's a very similar space.
Mm-hmm.
For us, like we think that the fastest way to bring on people onto the platform is events.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But at the end of the day, like
throwing events or
no, like just scraping events and then
see.
like showing them to people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like even though our public perception is that we're an event management platform, I don't see us as an event management platform at all. I consider us like an identity management platform. Like if people come onto the platform, they have a unique identity that's associated with like where they can go. Then you add in financial components and layers to it. So like to me, it's like it's kind of hard to explain like the 20 chapter version of what Ummah's trying to do. But we're like laser focused on trying to capture like this similar space, right? Not event OS. I would say it's not, we're not like going to organizations and saying, hey, run all of your like custom events and you know, we don't do it in that capacity, but it's more like we have a bunch of users, like, do you want more visibility? It's just like more of a marketing play. But like, that's what I mean about like, I think the idea is
like a recommender almost.
There's some features that are recommendation based as well, but I think the idea is that like I do kind of agree that we have to be focused on like infrastructure layer products,
Right.
But that doesn't mean like we go, if there's a prevalent problem, like clearly there's a prevalent problem because like there's 15 different groups and teams that are all trying to solve it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to balance anyways. I digress.
No, I agree in trying to solve the kind of infrastructure layer problem. It's needed, and that's what we saw, and that's kind of now why we're like, okay, let's pivot to this direction, right? Even though we started as discovery, more marketing, but it's like, okay, we want to solve a different problem now, and that just came directly from just talking to different types of organizers and just kind of finding the kind of theme and pattern and feedback that we've been getting.
So let me transition a little bit into like funding and trying to raise money. I don't know if that's something that you've tried to do, but it's such a challenge. Well, first of all, like anyone who hasn't ever tried to raise money, it's like one of the hardest things you can ever do. Like the equivalent of it is like taking sandpaper and rubbing it on your face 24/7. And so it's like a very hard thing to do as is. And so like, where are you with that journey? Is that something that you are trying to do? Is that something you're still trying to bootstrap? If you're trying to raise money, like how do you like respond to some of the questions that your investors will ask about like your TAM, your total addressable market, and like why you picked like a specific Muslim vertical, and like where are you kind of with that journey?
Yeah, so we've been bootstrapped since inception. It's been an interesting journey just trying to do all of this without any outside resource. But alhamdulillah, through these challenges, we were able to just kind of focus on kind of what mattered. We've had a few conversations, not many. We've had a few conversations where folks were kind of interested in investing. Most of our investor appetite comes from abroad, like in the Middle East. They see what we're building. They look at how big the halal economy is. Or
Do you know why that is?
I think they just, honestly, I think, and that's kind of, we've had an investor that was interested, but we've had to kind of slow the conversations down because I don't think they truly understood what we were building. They knew the market, right? And, you know, for them, it's just like, you know, throwing money out there. Not in that sense, but it's just like, okay, they see how much value is in this economy, right?
Yeah.
And for us, we any investor that we want to work with, we want not just your money, but we want to be able to understand, do you understand the space that we're building, the technology? So the conversations are always pretty kind of straightforward, where, you know, we're talking about how big the market is and how we're going after the market and where we see the value unlock. And now it's become even clearer and more focused now that we have this kind of infrastructure layer positioning where we've pretty much just kind of stripping a lot of things away and just kind of focusing on one thing. And now it becomes easier to sell, it becomes easier to market, and it's predictable revenue once you get a certain amount of subscriptions. So it's a much easier story to tell now with where we are and talking to investors.
You mentioned how like finding the right investor, the right advisor, like it's more than just the money in itself, right? So have you found a theme on a consistency at least where certain people, they just don't capture that vision and where you lose them or where they are failing to understand?
I think, we've had just a few conversations. I think we lose them at the start where they say, okay, it's just for Muslims, right? It's just like, can they go beyond that, right?
Oh, they immediately look at a bigger market.
They look at a bigger market. I mean, they see, you can't quantify, you can quantify 2 billion Muslims, right?
Yeah.
But that's not who your
That's
customers are. So you have to really, and it allowed us to do a lot of homework, right? So who are we really trying to serve? Who's our ideal customer? Who's going to pay for the product? Someone using your product and someone paying for your product. It's two kind of different things. So I think just it's been an education process as well, really just educating folks about this place who might be risk averse to just putting their money into this. So a lot of the challenges is education and sharing our vision of what we see, the future we see tomorrow, and it's just continuing to kind of do that. And I think once you start to get some traction, then they'll get on board. And alhamdulillah, where we are today, we have processed over 50 payments through the platform. We're not generating any profit, but we've gotten to a point now that we have some points on the board, and now we're like, okay, how do we make it stick, or how do we continue to repeat this?
When you say 50 payments, do you like 50 accounts that
so we don't have a tier subscription turned on yet. So like these are like people setting up, selling tickets through the platform, and we just take our cut.
So as you're making this shift from what you guys were doing to now this new territory that you're at, what was the inflection point of, were both you and your co-founder like committed to that vision, or what was that thought process when you guys were kind of finding that realignment? I'm like, okay, we've done this, but there's a huge opportunity here. Let's make this shift. Did you have to kind of start all over, or was there a natural shift that happened?
No, we didn't have to start over. I think the technology is built. It's really just
It's a business model
language
change.
now. It's like changing our copy, our language, and our business model, right? And just now that when you come to our website, not now, but like we're working on the new copies behind the scenes, you'll see who it's for and what the outcome is. So just changing that versus the current languages, what you can do with our tool today. And it was very easy conversation, right? He started dabbling around with the idea, And as we're talking to users, like, I do a lot of the customer facing stuff, and I'm talking to user, and they're like, hey, I like where you're building, right? But, I don't want to send folks to your website. I want them. I've spent all this time building up my community, my audience. I want to maintain that.
The brand. And
my brand.
Yeah.
And I took a step back and was like, like, what does he mean by that, right? So he didn't know what the solution was, right? He just told me
why he's saying no.
Why he's saying no. I mean, he used the product, but he was just like, he told me what he told me. So that's when that idea, and I started getting more feedback from different type of organizers. So that's when we started to envision on what a solution could look like under brands that care about their audience, that care about their checkout experiences, that just care about maintaining that relationship with audience. I mean, their community versus sending them off to a third-party tool. So then we started to really just write down the types of organizations we kind of want to go after that would be interested. Obviously, not everybody would be interested. Some people just want to get up and running. And to make it clear also, like, if you don't have an organization or a brand, you can still use our product to get up and running on self-hosted pages. But now this is who we're kind of going after, right? We can say our ideal customer profile for now.
Yeah, I feel like getting this type of feedback directly from your customer oftentimes causes like an inflection point for your company as to making, especially early on, like making complete big shifts. Yeah. What's been the biggest decision that you've made in your company so far, outside of course like starting it, that really shifted in the trajectory that you were going at or the pace that you were going at?
I think you said hiring the CTO. Or
yeah, I would say hiring a CTO because, it gave us a foundation to build off of. Like I said, in the early days, it was just a lot of outsourcing, a lot of no-code tools, just, hacking tools together. And when
how'd you meet him?
Huh?
How'd you find your CTO?
We connected through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then,
Is he Muslim as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Muslim. He's based in the UK.
Yeah.
His name is Ali, and obviously we're all in the same kind of networks over there with Islamic makers, MTF.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it was easier to kind of just have that kind of conversation. He has a background in engineering, heads of engineering, and just built what we have today. And he knew the space, and that was very important. Someone who just knew the event space and could build what we were building. I think that was the first big decision. And the second big decision was where we are today with this positioning, right? Before then, like a few years ago, it took years to build a product. Not years, I mean months, where you had to have a team of engineers. Now you can.
Do you know why though it took a little bit longer? Like what was it? Just like what was like the biggest, like if you had to like summarize, what was like the biggest before and after with your CTO? Like, can you like quantify an example, I guess?
I mean, just someone who could completely own the tech, right? So, he knows what to do. He knows how to build. He has high agencies. Like, it's just a team of two of us, but you would think there's 8 of us, right? Just having high agency, 10x mindset where you can just build, ship, and get what needs to go out there. I would say that was the biggest difference, right? Someone who.
Well, the other thing that I've also seen is like usually. It's a game of like when to do it, right? But like usually when you outsource your development early on, it's like a double-edged sword because it's like the quality of what you're getting back. They're not going to care. I shouldn't say they're not going to care about it. They're not going to be as incentivized as much as you are to narrow down on the requirements. So like having. It's like I mean this opinion might change now with like all the AI no code tooling that's coming out over the last year and a half, but like in general, like it used to be a big red sign if you didn't have a technical co-founder with you, because understanding your tech stack all the way through is so critical, even to get to relative like a product in the market. I would say that maybe that's changing, like the landscape is changing with like the ability to like whip out like crazy tools with like lovable.dev. Like you can get some good traction with just being a solo founder.
You can.
But like
or with Replit.
Replit too, yeah. There's a lot of them, Claude Code and all these other ones. So like, so you're more likely to get some traction.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I don't buy into the fact that like, I still think that there is significant value in being able to understand the technical layers.
100%.
Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
That's not going away.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's a form of communicating and understanding how things are operating. Like everything that you're building is going to be in some way or form you're interacting with technology,
100%.
regardless of what industry you're in. And so, and I think in that sense, it's important to have someone who can have that background, understanding and nuances, but also being able to avoid the pitfalls, right? Because I think a lot of solo founders who aren't technical find a lot of, and it's okay because you're looking for traction and progress. So you find these like Band-Aid solutions that people are selling. And then,
but that's what you need to do sometimes.
Again, that's what I say. Like early on, you're going through that era, but you can't build
This
a business in that manner, right?
I know
And
exactly
so
where you were because it's just so hard to find a technical talent. First of all,
that takes agency. That's
Yeah.
big. Having someone who takes agency in whatever role is such a critical role to have. But I think when it comes to like picking your co-founder, right, it's beyond just the skills, but it's also values, right? Because it is someone you're going to be with for a very long time.
100%.
What was your thought process on like, okay, what values you're looking for? Is that something you thought about, or did you just get lucky?
I would say a bit of both, honestly. We obviously have similar values on how we see the product, what impact we want to have on the community. Obviously, character is definitely important. So there was definitely some conversations around that. And I think, subhanAllah, just everything I've been through with the outsourcing and just, because I've outsourced a product multiple times and just the stack never got right. And just, to get someone special like my CTO, it was just like a breath of fresh air. It's like when you know, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of those moments, alhamdulillah. And then we're excited just to kind of finally get an opportunity to just continue building for this community and making an impact to this space in whatever way we can.
What's kind of like y'all's goal for this year as Qariyb? What would be like a really good benchmark that you guys would like to hit?
I would say a good benchmark now that we're changing our product strategy a little bit. If we could get 100 paying customers by the end of the year, that would be, inshallah, a goal for us. Right now, we're close to about 40 organizers. These are just people using the product and maybe selling tickets or free events. So if we can get that number up there to 100, and then continue to compound that'll be good. About 100 organizers paying. That'll be good.
What's like the customer experience like? Because 40, because it's just the two of y'all, right?
Yeah.
40 is a lot of people to manage and handle. Like, how are you, from a customer success manager perspective?
Right.
What's been what's been that like for y'all?
Yeah, so it's been a challenge. It's an area that we could definitely use support with, pun intended. But I think the product itself is self-explanatory, right? So folks get in there, they sign up, they know what they need to do. It's not much hand-holding or onboarding
just the usual
required. Just the
setup.
Usual stuff, right? Unless there's a bug that we might have missed. Those are the usual things that come up. But from day to day, the product just does what it's supposed to do. So it's not taking too much of our time. And we're trying to automate where we can, where before I was, handling a lot. I'm still handling a lot of the customer stuff, but we have a tool implemented now where you can just capture whatever issue you're having, send it, and we'll take a look at it, resolve it, and that's that. So just finding efficiencies where we can make the best use of our time.
So your ideal customer is probably like an event organizers, and would it be strictly them?
Yes, essentially anyone that's running, I guess, more than 10 events a year,
Gotcha,
or the frequent events, like you run events for whether it's school, your community, free, paid, and you want to have that kind of direct relationship with your audience. So like I said, you can be a school, a charity, NGO, a conference, or brand. Those are the categories of our ideal customer profile. We might start with one or two maybe like messages. I know some of them are not really tech savvy or have tech teams, so we're leaning more towards tech savvy organizations.
People who are already using similar tools.
Who already use similar tools, start there as our beachhead, and then make some stories, some successful case studies, and then start to kind of branch out.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, 100 is not too far away. Inshallah, we'll keep you in our du'as during Ramadan. May Allah excel our expectations, particularly. So hopefully you get 200.
Inshallah.
No limitations.
Inshallah.
Well, Abu Bakar, it's Ramadan, and we have you yapping for a little bit too longer than we would like, just because of want to conserve your energy. But Jazakallah khairan for joining us on the Caravan podcast, sharing a little bit on Qariyb, what you guys are building, what you're working towards, and I think it's a huge benefit for the community to having tools like this. So again, thank you again for joining us.
Jazakallah khair for having me. This was fun. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.